Hello my friends, and as always thank you so much for watching my videos. Today we are going to discuss and analyze what are eccentric rings on binoculars and what they actually do. So to begin with, eccentric rings, I've seen eccentric pumps, eccentric mechanisms, I can't even say it. It has to do with some sort of engineering device or style of device that basically something that moves with something inside of it moving. So in this case it's going to be circles. So it's basically two circles that move within each other, and the purpose of that is actually to align your binoculars, the the image, so that you don't see like a double image or a ghostly image. Aligning your image or your view on your binoculars is called collimation, and when your binoculars are out of collimation, that means you're seeing like double, or your eyes are seeing, one lens is seeing something over there and the other lens is seeing something completely different. So there are different ways to adjust the alignment, which is what you're doing, adjust the alignment of your binoculars or to collimate your binoculars. And that really depends more on the type of binocular that you have. There are some more newer than older binoculars that will have screws above the prisms, and when you screw them in, screw them out, they manipulate the prisms. For example, I have something like that for my 1930s Dr. Volher binoculars from Germany, and the other ones that I see that have those are my mid 1970s Binolux, who also have just two screws. However, my modern Barska 2080, which is pretty new, that one has four screws to manipulate the prisms. So these particular binoculars here with the eccentric rings don't have that kind of stuff, and those screws on the prisms are a billion times easier than this thing. For my Barska 2080, I collimated that thing in like 30 seconds, having never done it before. It was so easy. Unfortunately, a lot of really great binoculars, and I mean high quality, that would be worth today, were selling back then, that are selling, that the equivalent of price would be like $400, $800, $900, $12, $1,500 binoculars. Those unfortunately tended to have a the eccentric ring mechanism to adjust the the view, or to align the the image. And generally, I know I saw those from the 50s, 60s, maybe some 70s, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they had them in the 40s as well. And let me go ahead and show you what it is. So I'm taking apart a Jana binocular, and I'm going to go ahead and show you everything that it has here. So this part here is called the beauty ring. You do not have to remove the entire, let me see, this entire piece from the housing. You don't have to do that unless you want to access the the lens, or you want to remove the lens from the housing. But basically, you want to take this off, okay? And to begin with, I don't know. Okay, I don't know how in the world these things get out of collimation regarding these types of binoculars, because I have a bunch of vintage 50s 60s binoculars that do have this eccentric rings, and I've taken, you know how you can remove the this part from binoculars, not this one because of the model, but you know what I mean, you can remove this part from the binocular. That's called a pipe. I've removed it, clean the inside of the lens, clean, because you need to remove it to access the prisms, right? um, and then I put it back, and I have no problem with collimation. Everything's still nice and focused, or lined up together. So I don't exactly know how in the heck things get out of whack, but I do have a few that I did buy that are out of alignment. So what we're going to do here is we're going to see these these two notches here, and I hope that you can see them. So you have this notch here and this notch here, and what you're going to use is this my handy dandy lens vise, which of course you place into the two little slots, and you secure into place, and you see me turning it. Okay, so this is already all loose, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep going with my finger just to make things faster. But as you can see, I call this a locking ring because what it's doing, it's keeping the lens, how would I call it? Not the lens, but the lens housing. I don't know the terminology for that. I'm sorry, but this for me is one part. They're gonna have to take it off. So this for me is part of the lens housing, but we also have a different one, the one that actually holds the lens, and I'm gonna take that out now. As you can see right here, you see another slit right there, but you don't see one down here. But also, if you see how thick this is, okay, if you can see how thick this is, and yet down here it's quite thin. Now this housing for the lens, I don't know what you call it, the lens base is normal. Okay, so that's going to be what you would call normal. All right, this is normal shaped right here, but you just saw this little notch here. But if you look at this black part here, you saw that this here is thick, this here is thin. Okay, so both this, which holds the lens, and this eccentric ring, because I guess it's considered an eccentric ring as well, because it's oblong, or it's the way that it's designed, thin on one part, thick on the other, thick on one part, thin on the other. They're both considered the eccentric ring as far as I can figure out. And the lens, I'm always touching the lens, it doesn't matter right now. The lens, if you need to take the lens out for whatever reason, that comes out of the backside, and it also has another locking ring with two slits, just like we took out the first one. You take out the one in the back. They are different sizes, so you can't mix them up. Now, if you see how this is, like this, right? One thin, one side thin, one side thick. We're gonna put it inside the I guess the frame. I don't know what the heck this thing is called, but as you can see, there's quite a bit of movement here. Okay, there's quite a bit of movement, and the reason for that, of course, is because of the eccentric ring that goes in there. Now, the way that these eccentric rings work, or what they do, is that when you move one, like say for example, where is my screwdriver here? Okay, when you move, for example, well, let me backtrack. The reason both the eccentric ring and the loose one, and the eccentric ring that is with the lens, the reason they both have that one side thick, one side thin, is to give it more ability to move. If there was only one side that had it, then you would have a lot less movement, and you might not be able to even move it at all. I'll show you in a minute what I mean by that. But the way that they are supposed to move is that you want to keep the lens in one place and then adjust the eccentric ring, and if that's not enough movement, you adjust the eccentric ring that's holding the lens, so you can do the whole thing. And you might want to keep this is what I mean. This is part of what I mean. It's incredibly difficult. You can see the lens moving, and I'm keeping the eccentric ring in one spot. Okay, you see how I'm moving that? I'm going to show you what's happening in better detail right now. But you can see me moving the lens part, while keeping the eccentric ring in its place. Alright, you see me doing that? Okay. So what's going on there is basically this. This is just so you understand how this thing is behaving, and somebody who's smarter than me will hopefully figure it out, because I have not been able to figure out how to move it yet on my binoculars and fix it. But in any case, take a look at how this part here is flush, right? Right now it's flush because you've got thick to thin, thick to thin. Well, this is the thickest part. Okay, let me see here. But as you can see, okay, you can see how if I move this, how it starts to rise. This one's rising. Okay, this one's rising. And eventually, I hope you can see that. And eventually, it's going to drop back down when it gets to thin to thick, thin to thick. So the thin to thick, where this is flush, is called the neutral point. Unfortunately, there's so little information on how to do this kind of stuff. I do not know if there's a neutral position to start by putting it on your binocular, and then to start from where. That's a lot of stuff that people just don't talk about, and this is part of why I'm making this video, because at least if you see this video, you'll start to hopefully understand how everything is functioning. So here we go again, and you can see how it's getting higher. The ring that I'm moving is getting higher. Alright, so let me explain to you generally what exactly is happening. So this, we're going to pretend that this screwdriver here is your eye and your axis of sight, is what they're saying, right? Your axis of sight. This is going to be the lens, for example, with the lens inside. So your axis of sight is going right through the center, right? It's going right through the center. But if you need to adjust your lens because your binoculars are no longer collimated, you're not wobbling the lens housing or the lens case. You're not wobbling it. And what I mean by that is, think of a flashlight where you're doing like this number, right? Where you're doing this. Look at how this is wobbling, and of course the laser beam, it's moving, but so is this. But I'm wobbling it. Okay, so it's moving it, right? You would think, okay, that's kind of how you do it. You put two flashlights together side by side, and you wobble them together until they reach in the middle to that laser beam is now the center of your image. But that's not the way this is working. The way this is working is that your lens, your line of sight is through the center of the lens, but now when you're moving these two around, okay, when you're moving these two around inside, remember how it was all loose in here, how there was a lot of space in there? What you're doing is you're moving the lens up, down, sideways, circle, okay, and your line of sight is down the center, and this is your lens. But look what happens when you move the lens. Your line of sight stays the same, same position, but the lens moved. It could move up, it could move down, it could move sideways, it could move at an angle, it could move in a circle, right? It cannot move in a wobbling manner, but it can move out of from the absolute dead center of the lens, okay, like this, like this, like this, like this. All right, so now you're looking at this right to the center of the lens, and now you're doing this. Now you're doing this. Now you're doing this. Now you're doing this. You know, you're talking millimeter movements, but it's enough that you are no longer looking through the dead center of the lens. Now, look what happens when you have a laser, and you can look at my leather over here through a glass. Okay, you can see my hand is steady, but I'm moving the glass. And what's happening to the laser pointer over there? Absolutely nothing. It stays in place, right? It stays in place. But what happens when you put a laser, or let's say your line of sight, through the center of the lens, okay? But now you've decided to move your lens. Look at that laser beam pointer, or look where it's on the leather. I'm moving the lens up, down, left, and right. Look what's happening to the laser on the lens. I'm moving, or on the leather. It's moving. It didn't move with the other piece of glass, but it's moving with the lens. So what the heck's going on? I'm sure a lot of you have already understand why this is happening, but for those of us that are a little slow, basically the lens has what's called a convex bottom. Not too dramatic, but it has a convex, which is at an angle like this, and the outside has a convex concave on the bottom, and convex on top, which means it's at an angle like this, okay? So the glass was flat. This is not. So when your line of sight is coming this way, but you now move your lens down or sideways, now you're looking at something else. Well, now it's bouncing off a different angle because it's no longer in the center of the lens. Now, because of the way lasers work, or lenses work, it's like doing one of these numbers. So that's basically what's going on with these eccentric rings, and your line of sight going through the lens, and then you move the lens. You don't move your line of sight, you move the lens up and down, sideways, in a circle, and it changes the direction of what you're looking at, like you saw the laser on my leather. So, like I said, this video was not here to show you how to fix it at the moment, because how to fix it is going to be a real pain in the ass. Trust me, you're gonna want to have it on a tripod. It's gonna take a lot of maneuvering with your hands and a lot of frustration, because I'm already there. I mean, seriously, I've been there. I've been doing that. But I did buy some of these binoculars that were a little bit out of whack, because the image was absolutely gorgeous. If you look at one individual piece, if you look at each one, it's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, they were a little bit uncollimated, and I got to try and play around with this. But I figured out that that's what's going on. That's how that works. There is no wobbling. It's just that you're looking through a different part of the lens, no longer in the middle. Now you're over here, now you're over here, now you're over here, now you're over here, and that's what you need to adjust. Alright, my friends, so as always, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you are able to remove all your parts from your binoculars. If not, remember, you can always use rubbing alcohol, little by little, put it around the edges of the parts that need to be removed. It can take you 5 minutes, it can take you 35 minutes. Use a my trusty tool to remove oil can filter remover, which really does do a fantastic job of removing parts, because it grips onto them really nicely. And of course, you'll want your lens vise and some micro screws for other tools. But anyway, my friends, I didn't want to make this video too long or too complicated, but I have not seen any video like this on the internet, and not that it doesn't exist, it's just that I haven't found it. And that's basically what's going on with your eccentric rings. So we'll see you in another video. Thank you very much.